I'm Ann Rieselbach, the League's Program Director, and I'd like to welcome all of you to this first of the Architecture League's revised First Friday series, which is now on Thursdays, and for the duration renamed FFM- Distance Edition. In this time of social distancing, a group of the League staff considered ways to re-envision some of the League's programs that are centered on firsthand engagement. And needless to say, the perennially popular First Friday office open houses were at the top of the list, with their emphasis on directly experiencing not just what a design practice is producing, but also where and how they work, as well as providing the opportunity to meet design team members rather than just each, and sorry for the principals here, just each office's principals. We decided to take advantage of all of our online modes of communication and Zoom-driven meetings to expand what this program could be, moving beyond local office walls to the possibility during these times of virtual experiences to take on an expanded North American focus. With more and more practices taking on multiple roles, coupling architecture with initiatives including design advocacy, fabrication, research, and community engagement, we invited a number of firms to show their work, share their surroundings, and talk about the intersections of their multifaceted practices and design initiatives. Tonight, and this is a living beta test, so be patient with us, the Mexico City-based PRODUCTORA, which was founded in 2006, will be first up, along with LIGA, an organization founded in 2011 by the firm's principals, along with curator and art critic Ruth Estevez. And LIGA promotes emerging Latin American architecture through exhibitions, conferences, and workshops. It's really a kind of parallel organization to the League, not entirely coincidental, as they will explain. The League's first encounter with the principles and projects of PRODUCTORA was when they were among the winners of the 2007 League Prize, and we've enthusiastically followed their work ever since, meeting them as a group again when they were recognized as emerging voices in 2013. Their work has been presented in numerous architecture biennials, in Venice and beyond. In 2016, they received the Mies Crown Hall America's Prize for Emerging Architects for their pavilion on the Zocalo. More recently, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this and I'm sorry, the Teopanzolco Cultural Center has received awards, including the American Architecture Prize in Cultural Architecture and the Oscar Niemeyer Award. Just this past winter, a League Mexico City, which seems years ago now, a League Mexico City study tour provided the opportunity to see their studio and the Liga Gallery firsthand, and we're looking forward to revisiting both tonight. Following the series of swiftly moving presentations that are going to be sort of anchored by one of the principals, Wonne Ickx, which will include an overview of some recent and current residential and cultural projects, and a presentation by Liga's director, there'll be an opportunity for all of you to ask questions. We think you can raise your hand with the hand icon. If not, you can use the chat function or literally raise your hand and we'll unmute you at that point so that everyone can pitch in. And we've decided to do this program not as a webinar, but as a real Zoom meeting so everybody can see each other too, because that's, yes, because that's part of the fun of First Fridays is in addition to everything you learn about the office, getting a chance to see each other. So it's really great to see all of you on the screen tonight, seeing the League members, some past staff members, board members. It's just super. So now I'm going to switch over and let Bonnie take it from here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this introduction. Nice to see faces I've seen before. I see Rachel, Paul Lewis was there. I see Sasha's calling in from Chicago as well, which is really nice. So it's an absolute pleasure for us to be here at the Architecture League First Friday program, even when it's Thursday, as you said. With PRODUCTORA, indeed, we have a long and beautiful relation with the Architecture League. So it's really nice you're willing to start off with us for this online program. As Anne actually maybe did not explain, but I have a small secret to share with you guys. While I'm supposed to lead a studio visit to our office in Mexico City, I'm actually in New York right now. I moved to Brooklyn about a month ago in the middle of the pandemic, as my wife, Ruth Estevez, recently got a job as an artistic director of a new space in East Williamsburg, a beautiful art space being built now by Wonne Ickx from Seville. So this means that I will function as a sort of off-site coordinator and connect you with different people in Mexico City in our office. I will be the anchor man, so to speak. Or for those who watch silly comedies, I will be your Ron Burgundy tonight. For those who don't know our office, we started PRODUCTORA about 15 years ago as a small firm led by 4 partners: Abel Perles from Argentina, Carlos Bedoya and Victor Jaime from Mexico, and myself from Belgium. You will meet all 4 of us this evening. Now we have a firm with about 15 to 20 architects and designers working for us. Due to COVID, of course, most of them from home. Our work is very much informed by the often very complex and layered historic sites and topographic situations our work is embedded in. We try to react to these complex environments by making very legible buildings with very basic geometric layouts and a very limited palette of materials. We try to make architecture with the least gestures as possible. Most of our work is realized in Mexico, but we now are working more abroad and with several projects in the US as well. We start to build in Houston, Texas, as we won a competition in collaboration with Kevin Daly at the end of last year. And that's something really important for our practice. We do a lot of collaborations with different offices in Mexico and abroad. And I think it is since the 4 of us, the 4 partners, are used to design, discussing and developing projects as a sort of communicative action, as a sort of dialogue around the design table, that collaborative part is part of our DNA as designers. And that's why it's easy, I think, for us, or relatively easy, to include other people and other offices within that design process. Also the office, the space where we work, which some of you already visited in the beginning of this year, is a collective project. It's the adaptive reuse of a former textile factory. And my partner Abel is there and will allow us to take a look. Abel, can you hear me? How is everything in Mexico City?
Hi, Wonne. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Abel Perles, one of the founders of PRODUCTORA. And here we are in our working space, an old building called La Laguna from 1940. Takes half of the block in the middle of Mexico City in an open coming neighborhood. La Laguna was an old textile factory, like Wonne said, from 90s, that we have adapted and are reusing with new workshops and office spaces for creative design industries, keeping the original use for creativity industries. Here's a ceramic studio for an experimental art pieces. Some of you will remember the place from the Art Click dinner at February. As you can see, that side is under construction now. This is a central patio. It's common for all the workshop and all the spaces. And this is the old factory building with our adaptations and transformations. And this is the workplace of the organic coffee producers called Buna. And there is another zone we have designed, and our place, PRODUCTORA, at the end. Here is the handcraft workshop. And other offices, and our place, PRODUCTORA Studio. And next to PRODUCTORA, is LIGA. This is our daily office, the model zone. My partners, Victor and Carlos, ready for the next. And this is a common zone to La Laguna. And finally, this is a model of La Laguna project, an adaptive and collaborative effort that we have designed, transformed, and reused a factory building from the 50s. And for now, that's it. Thank you. Back to the studio, Wonne.
Thank you, Abel. Thank you. Excellent reporting. We now establish a connection with Frida Muslian. Frida is one of our main key project leaders in PRODUCTORA. She's in charge of several of the more larger housing developments within Mexico City, within Mexico and Guadalajara. Frida, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, Wonne. Hi, everyone. My name is Frida Muslian. I'm one of the project leaders in PRODUCTORA, as Wonne was saying right now. I'm in charge of the largest residential projects we are developing right now in Mexico City and in Guadalajara. I wanted to show you our model room for this event. However, since we've been working from home since March, I'm gonna show you some pictures. These are just some of the models we have created during the design process. We always try to test new materials and new scales to understand the project from different approaches. And tonight, I will talk to you about this one right here. We've been working on for a year now, Bucareli. We are really excited about this project because it's our very first high residential building in Mexico City, with almost 300 apartments, and the construction will start in a couple of months. It is for an international developer that is investing in Mexico with a rental housing model. And also, we are working on it in collaboration with our friends, Saide Springal and Jose Castillo from Architecture 911. The building is located in the city center, that is the oldest part of the city. We love to work on projects located on this kind of historical, complicated context. We believe this condition make them more interesting. We wanted to design a building that is related to its historical context, but also to a contemporary language. And with this main idea, to achieve a relation with its neighbor buildings, the first floors are solid and massive in a pigmented concrete. And in contrast, for the upper levels, the decision was the opposite. It is an open skin, metallic, in this kind of fashion red, trying to create a modern building. So the concept of the whole project is the relation between closed and open as an analogy of past and future. And I think that this picture illustrates better this whole concept. Thank you for your time, and let's go back with Wonne to the studio.
Thank you, Frida. Stay safe. We're now switching over to the office again, to the other side of the office where you just saw my partners, Carlos and Victor, are sitting, and they will talk a little bit about the materials used in several, well, recent and not that recent projects. Carlos and Victor, can you hear me?
Yes, we are here. Hello, everyone. So, as Wonne was mentioned, we would also like to share with you research we have been doing recently with pigmented concrete that we have used in some projects. Some was recent, some not that recent. And we consider interesting this research because by taking advantage of the technology, because it cannot be done before, but nowadays we are able to use this kind of material that allows to solve like context, relationships, special experiences, get new aesthetic solutions and new tools for future possible needs.
We have here over the table some samples. some concrete blocks, testing different colors and textures. And well, we want to share with you 4 different projects where we can apply this material.
So, yes.
The first one is Teotitlán del Valle, located like half an hour from Oaxaca, driving from Oaxaca, and it's done on this ochre color concrete that allow us to fit into the context. The context is made by of adobe, and the concrete, this color sold what we were looking for. And the second one, it's in the Ribera Maya in the Caribbean Sea. It's a house. It's pigmented on blue. And basically, we were trying to fit now into the sky and into the sea colors, and actually has been changing. Has been getting a pink as the sunset. Okay.
Then we designed like this public plaza to practice sport, skating, gatherings. We designed also a playground area, and we try to highlight some of these concrete elements that have like different uses. Some they are just like space to create, like to shade spaces or to do sports, or so this was like the strategy here in this like 2 plazas we developed. And the last project we want to share with you is this one, that it was an auditorium. It was a competition in where we took part together with Isaac Broyd as a partner. And we won this competition. We had to design this auditorium, but for us, it was important, like 4 things to solve. One, the relationship with the city. The other one, the relationship with the neighborhood. If you can just like come back. You can see here the relationship with the city, with the neighborhood surrounding the project. The other one, it was the relationship with the archaeological site, because the project, it was just in front of an archaeological site, which was super important for us. Even the idea was to extend like the archaeological site to our project. And finally, and I would say one of the most important things, it was to create a new public space within the city. Since the project, if you see the geometry, it merged, I mean, the roof with the floor and so on, it ended up being like a 100% like new public space within the Cuernavaca city. That's it. So
back to studio, Wonne.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Carlos. Well, okay, thank you. So now we're going to talk a little, I'm going to explain you a little bit about, while Carlos and Victor talk to you about finished projects, I want to talk to you as well a little bit of what we have on the drawing board now, apart from the project that Frida explained, and specifically those things we are currently working on in the United States. I will also share my screen to show you a few images. So this is a very small library, a reading studio, writing studio for Christopher Hawthorne, the critic of the LA Times. As you know, when he left his job as the critic for the LA Times and took up his job as chief design officer, he had to move all his books from his downtown LA office back to his house. And he basically asked us to organize in a small space he had behind his garage, to organize in a small reading room that could also function sometimes as a mini guest residence. And here the same thing, with very limited materials, we try to just create one single horizon, one single book frame that would go all around the room. And that single gesture would basically organize the whole space, would create a separation between the pill-shaped bathroom and the main room, and would also, would also have create space for a desk, have the access, and all the different, basically everything would resolve by just placing that blue piece of furniture within the space. And by having the roof continuous, there's this clerestory window that just continues over the bookshelf, separating the wet area from the dry area where the books are protected. And so it creates this contrast between these two different materialities, this white wet room and this blue reading and writing studio. The second project we're working on is a project in Denver, Colorado. It's a project for co-housing together with, it's very important that I mention our partner's Part Office as well for the project in Los Angeles. We're working with a Young Studio Part Office on all our residential projects in Los Angeles. This project in Denver is about co-housing, and since the rising housing prices in the central areas of Denver are expulsing students, artists, young professionals, together with Mark Falcone of Continuum Developers, we're trying to look for solutions in which we can see how can we organize not the typical single family residence, but different organizations on a single plot. And so a plot is divided into two. That's allowed in Denver. A single residential plot is divided into two narrow plots, and on each plot we create a house and an ADU. And so in total, this house has like 1, 2, 3 units and the ADU. So in total, on each plot we have 4. So in total, 8 independent units, each with a little bathroom and a kitchenette. And then they share over the 2 houses, 1 communal dining space and 1 communal TV room or kitchen. So it's actually 2 suburban houses that start to work together. For example, if all these people together want to watch the game, it's just join in the neighbor's place if they want to cook together, or if you want to have friends over and you cannot do that in your small personal unit, you can do that in a communal kitchen. The construction is going ahead. We're probably finished by the end of this year for this 8-unit co-housing project in Denver. And here you can see a little bit these ADU garages, these backlot studios that connect and basically repeat that almost monopoly-like housing unit that is recreated several times. The last project is the Houston Endowment headquarters in Houston, Texas, a project we won in the end of 2019 together with Kevin Daly Architects. And that project, it really tried to create a building that would continue the canopy of a park setting in which the building is located. Because in the end, the only thing that you really need in Houston is shade and shadow for your building, for your activities to happen underneath. And so it's a sort of building that kind of plays with a sort of very simple open scaffolding structure in which different activities can happen. And of course, it kind of reminds us a little bit of these simple steel elements that you can also find at the Menil or at Johnson's St. Thomas campus, continuing a sort of Houstonian tradition of precise assembled steel architecture. So here you can see, for example, how parts of the walkways going through the park and the Houston Endowment proposal, they kind of share the same canopy and share the same shadow, different moments of the day. Now I want to give the word to Adriana. Adriana is the coordinator of our space for architecture called LIGA. And it's a very important alter ego of PRODUCTORA. We've been running a space to promote young, emerging, or interesting Latin American architecture since 2011, so almost 10 years. We have to celebrate our 10 years next year. And Adriana, our coordinator, will tell us a bit more about that. Adriana, you're at LIGA now. Hello,
yes, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adriana. I'm at the LIGA office. We're putting together our next show in the main space. I will leave the images like this so you can read our name of what you are seeing in the screen. As you all may know, LIGA, Space for give me 1 second. Space for Architecture is an independent platform founded in Mexico City in 2011 by Ruth Esteves, art contemporary writer, critic, and curator, and the 4 men of PRODUCTORA. LIGA promotes Latin America contemporary architecture through exhibitions, conference, workshops, talks, walks around the city. Through these nearly 10 years, LIGA has done 33 site exhibitions from architects from Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Guatemala, Paraguay, and of course, Mexico. Also has done several public programming, as I mentioned, different conferences, workshops with architects, artists, some publications, some pavilions, and open calls. And of course, we want to, in this situation, we're moving forward and doing more exhibitions and different programmings using this new way of sharing through the screen. We want to take advantage of the situation. But I would say one of the main strengths that LIGA has is being a very, very collaborative project, where not only we sustained the project by the help and support of other very consolidated architects, but professionals from other disciplines, companies, friends that believe space like LIGA is a unique space, not only by offering the public very reflexive contents, but connections, inter-exchange, and friendly gathering, like the amazing dinner we had in February of this year with all of you, that it was very, very incredible to have you and to offer to Mexican public architects that kind of engagement with each other. Let me move a little. These are some images of this public programming and events that we really make happen. Our next project, our next exhibition is Amunategi Valdez. We will open it to the public with by an appointment. We will not make a big opening with all the architects. We hope they come, but the next year maybe. It's called Compendium, a way to articulate the worlds. Amunategi Valdez is a Chilean duo that work from LA and Santiago, and they're putting together different atmospheres and worlds, accommodating different samples and objects to show in different areas of the space. We will have the talk, and of course you will receive the invitation to share this kind of talk with them in the beginning of October. So I will make sure you all receive the invitation. These are some of the models that will be shown in the space. And just another oncoming project we're going to do as one of the talks. It's called La Casa del Vecino, our neighbor's house. We invite 5 different firms from the United States, Wong Fong Lindo, Johnson Mark Lee, Jennifer Bonner, Paul Anderson, and Moss, to talk about just one specific project. What you are showing, what I'm showing you in the screen is how we are going to communicate it in our digital platforms. But the idea is just to make the project the main subject of the talk. It will be a talk between Wonne and different people from the different offices. We have so much going on, but I think with this, I will end and send the word to Wonne again.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Lovely to see again also these images of our dinner last year. So before we open up to Q&A, I think I want to put a commercial block in there and maybe quickly talk about the book we just finished. So we're super happy. This is a book that took us like probably 4 years in the making, and it's not a book really on our work. It's a book basically the outcome of 2 studios we were teaching at the IIT in Chicago. It's a co-production of the IIT, MCHAP, and Actar publishers. And basically what we did is in these 2 studios, we investigated the relationship in between modern and contemporary architecture and the soil, the ground it occupies, the topography it occupies. And so this has a lot of historic revision as well. It's I'm gonna just show this like this for a moment. That kind of works. So it has a lot of historic revision as well. It talks, for example, about the Pedregal housing. It talks about, of course, there's a lot of John Lautner. And there's about these moments in history when architects started to become aware of topography and started to work very specifically with topography. In the 70s, this really intriguing project by Legorreta, how it's based on this hillside architecture in Acapulco. There's contributions by Carlos Bedoya and me. And there's 3 external contributions by Frank Escher, who was very much involved with the Lautner Foundation in LA, Veronique Pateu, who writes on Kenneth Frampton, and Jesus Vassallo, who talks about the work of Mansilla Antunion in Spain. So there's a lot of really essays that kind of explore a little bit that relation between architecture, or modern architecture, and topography. Like, for example, in this amazing Frey house as well in Palm Springs. So I hope you all can have a copy or find a copy of it soon in one of your favorite bookstores. It should be out there already. And yeah, we can discuss it further in Q&A. And I want to thank you again so much for having us. It's a pleasure always to engage in projects from the Architecture League. And yeah, we open it up to discussion, I would say.
Now is the time for people to put their questions in chat, but actually you led into what was going to be my second question. I'll go back to the first question in a second, which was actually citing Christopher Hawthorne. I had no idea that you then did a project for him. So you've recently published this book, and you've also written about the integral relationship between topography and design in your own work. Can you talk about that a little bit more? You've shown us a variety of different buildings with urban settings, with very sort of resort-like settings, with settings within archaeological digs. Can you talk a little, or archaeological sites? Can you talk a little bit about how the existing context is integrated within the design of your firm's buildings?
Yes, for sure. And I invite my partners as well to interrupt me when when they need. Not only my partners, Frida, everybody at PRODUCTORA. I think first of all, we have a richness of working really, really interesting, complex sites in Mexico. I mean, we've been working in, like you saw, or in a very specific natural area, or in a very accidental topographic site in Chihuahua, in the north of Mexico, or in front of an archaeological site in Cuernavaca, as you just said. And I think that's an important thing, since we run an office with 4 people, I have the feeling that a lot of times the start of a project cannot come from sort of visceral personal emotion, like sort of a reaction, personal reaction to the program or desire to make architecture. So it really started to try to start off our projects with something we can all see and we can all agree and discuss upon. And so often the site, the context and the site becomes a sort of really the key generator of the project. And I think so the first thing that we would do in every project is build a large site model, which is really sort of instrumental model to start to understand the hard facts of the site. And I think it's important to say that it's done through a model. The site is read through a model, because it's a very abstract reading of a site, of course. It's a very distant reading of a site. A lot of times, since we're 4, 2 of us go and visit the site, and 2 are visiting other sites or staying in the office, and so I think it's interesting that that you don't get carried away by the small details when you visit the site, like if it's raining or if the flowers are blossoming, but it's really the planometric physical facts are the one that drives an architectonical solution. And so that's basically based on topography lines and side lines and stuff like that. So that becomes absolutely key. And that's why when we started teaching the studio at IIT, first studio was called Being the Mountain, and it was a little bit, became the title of the book. It's actually a quote by Legorreta, the Mexican architect. That became sort of a bit of an investigation through the history, really investigating a little bit our own relation to topography, and so that's why a certain it's a book with historic essays, but in the end it's still a sort of introvert research into our own practice, I think I would say.
You mentioned abstraction, and it was very interesting seeing that commissioned by Christopher Hawthorne back in 2017 on the occasion of the Chicago Architecture Biennial. He actually wrote favorably about a whole group of architects, yourself included, international architects, whose work was featured in the exhibit, he described, among other terms, as new Euclideans. And he talks about your work as spare, solid, and unhurried, something looking almost ancient or even primordial, and an architecture that has a weight, a palpable sense of mass or layers, and mostly made of stone, wood, or concrete instead of glass and curving metal panels, contrasting you to the earlier generation of Gary, Maine, people like that. But the question he posed, and I'm going to pose to you, is, does this architecture sound boring? And he welcomed this quality, or at least terminology, finding something encouraging in the well-measured quality of the work. But I'd question his assessment that only his comment that one of the hallmarks of the work is that the firms try hard to do something that looks like they're not trying hard. So how would you place your work in this understanding? And do you see a movement in the context of some of your peers in Mexico City or in other places with this kind of stripped down simplicity? And what does that mean?
Yes, I mean, there is certainly, it's actually funny because Christopher Hawthorne later wrote another article for the LA Times that said, boring architecture, yes, please. And right. it kind of groups a certain group of similar architects, and he basically states a similar question. He just then also already.
That was actually this was from that article.
Was from that article, right?
Yeah.
There is, of course, I think, in a whole generation, and a reaction a little bit about the virtuosity that a lot of that the previous generations tried to explain, both I mean, when we grew up, it was all about technological and material innovation. And so there was the right way to do architecture. It was the way to kind of make technological software was relatively new. I mean, I still am from the last generation that handed in their projects by drawing boards. I'm born in '74, so like somewhere in the middle of the 90s, while many people were still already starting to work on the computer. But there's a sort of a reaction to that, to the fact that it is all about that. It's about the muscle work, the biggest cantilever, the smartest new material, the newest polymer. And so at a certain moment, there was, I think, a search in a whole group of contemporary architects to see, is there something that makes sense that we can do without having, especially in Mexico, without having access to this bigger budget and without having access to this technology. And so we started to really create an architecture that tries to be very smart in a certain way without depending on these instruments. And that it's also very related to, I mean, when Christopher Hart talks about, he relates a few people in the US also with a whole group of people in Europe as well. And I think, for example, in Europe,
Chile and South America.
In Europe, it's less a reaction, I think, to the drive or the need for technology and innovation, because that exists less in Europe than in the US. But it was a bit of a reaction against that. That overly loud success from the Super Dutch, for example, where everything had to be like super bold, super underlined. And so all of a sudden, all this kind of lost generation of Swiss architects were kind of an interesting source of references again.
I also would say that maybe something even more practical. For instance, all of a sudden, I think that as an architect, you have to design to use like a kind of language to try to communicate and give answer to different architecture tasks. So you have to decide when all of a sudden which is the language you are going to use to try to translate your intentions. So I would say that also because we are four and it's difficult to try to evaluate like an idea just in terms of aesthetics. We have decided to use like super simple geometries and gestures, trying to have something in common and try to reinforce this idea, but by not discussing something which has to do with just aesthetic, which could be like impossible to solve. So I would say also that becomes something pragmatic. And on the other hand, we realized that by having like these simple gestures, geometries and so on, we are able also to all of a sudden create like the tours and create like surprising spaces, beautiful special experiences. So we also, during all these years we have been working, we realized that also we can like take advantage of this language we have decided to use to design and create architecture.
We have a question, and this is, keep that image on the screen because this is good to have you sitting right there. Paul Lewis, who was there in January, would like to have you talk a little bit more about the physical space that you share, the range of different practices that share the factory space with you. There's a furniture maker, there's some other design firms, and how has that been affected or biased your work? And are there any ways that the specifics of that space, you know, the open air space, the interior-exterior relationship have affected how you've been able to work in this age of COVID?
Carlos, I don't know if you want to answer to that, but basically we all went to work from home. So the sadness is that we have this collaborative effort, this factory where we more and more, just by being in the physical, we were physically close, we could start to run into each other and look into each other's studios and offices and start to work on things together. All of a sudden we had possibilities. There's a big carpenter workshop as well within our building to be working on things with them. There's ceramic, there's, I really think that COVID gave that a big blow. You know, like all of these things that were kind of growing naturally. And so it's very strange to see how all our normal office work, and I want to thank everybody of PRODUCTORA here, like has been like running super smoothly and super like surprisingly smoothly. Actually, since COVID, everybody started working from home, and we got new projects going. We hired new people that have never seen the office, and so our day-to-day work goes very well. But this is something that cannot last forever, because all the extras, all the social cohesion, but also all this input that it gives to you of being in that building together with the different companies, I honestly, I feel we lose it we lose it a lot now. And so we're slowly hoping to start working more and more back into the office again. People are slowly moving back into the office. Everybody a bit according to their own rhythm, depending their personal situation. Thank you, Paul.
Anyone else? Otherwise, you're stuck with my questions.
I have been coming since the pandemic started, and I have been, I've seen how everybody stopped and how, for example, Metropolitana never stopped, or LIGA, how it was closed, and nowadays it's restarting to work again. Even PRODUCTORA, there are some people coming on Mondays, some people coming on Tuesdays, and I think people are missing to come to the office to share the table, you know, and to share maybe lunch, you know. So I think it's a matter of time to start all over again.
It's also not a matter of wanting to come to the office. It's also wanting to leave your house. I mean, it's very important as well, just to create a different break with the, I mean, we've been all living in this domestic setting for like, how much is it now? 6 months, 7 months, and so that really takes a toll on you. So you need your escapes.
We feel your pain. Yes. Are there other questions? Please put them in chat. Here's one from Katarina Flaxman. Can you, and this is good, this is one I wondered about too. Can you talk a little bit more about what motivated you to create LIGA, and how, if and how promoting and engaging with other Latin American architecture practices has affected your work?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we started off as well, like many of the practices we invite to LIGA as a young office trying to work in Latin America, and we saw that there were very little opportunities to kind of show your work. The only option was the Architectural League prizes, because since they include Mexico, but it's really true, and we were as Mexicans included to that. But a lot of other countries, they have no way to kind of, there's no, in LA, we used to have LA, when I was living in LA, we had LA Forum, we had the SciArt Gallery, we had UCLA had a small exhibition, there was the WUHO Gallery of Woodbury. There was a lot of small opportunities. Even before you really started building, you could do installation-based work, you could do, there was materials and applications. So there was a lot of things you can move. And we saw that it was completely inexistent in Latin America. That was one. And the second thing that we saw is that we only met our Latin American colleagues if Austin or University of Austin or Harvard or Rice or organized a colloquium on Latin American architecture. And we thought it was really a problem that we would always meet, people from Latin America would always meet within a context shaped and designed by US universities. And so we said we really need to establish platforms to create knowledge and to create interaction from within Latin America. And since we started LIGA, several of these, not only exhibition spaces, but also like more, how would I say, like workshops and conferences and architectural festivals arose that really focus on Latin American architecture, that are really a moment where Latin American architects can meet. So I think that was really important for us. And then that the other thing, Anne is showing one of the second book we edited with LIGA. And then another thing is really important. We immediately understood as well that would be really an enriching side activity for our office. You know, like we would be working on our office, on our projects, and sort of, and all of a sudden, this exhibitions at LIGA opening every 3 months with these people coming in with new ideas, new exhibition proposals, tons of problems for the build up. It creates a different type of dialogue that is really enriching for the studio. I don't know, Adriana, if you want to add something. I mean, you were not there at the beginning of LIGA like 9 years ago, but you're there now.
Yes, I was not part of LIGA, but I was part of an art foundation that supported LIGA since the beginning. So the starting point, I think, was one of the most amazing things for the scene in Mexico, to see all the people coming and listening to the talks. Of course, when you start to do more and more different works, and the change, I think now, before the pandemic, was a very incredible point with LIGA to engage again with the community and with the new address, because LIGA moved from the base address from, I don't know, 8 years now to this amazing new locality that I think it will engage a different public and with the different people around the Laguna.
Yeah. What they're describing, and Wonne, maybe you could describe the first incarnation of LIGA in your office and how the two fit together.
What do you mean with the first incarnation?
Your old office that was a freestanding structure with LIGA downstairs?
Yes, LIGA also, I mean, one of the reasons LIGA started also because all of a sudden there was this opportunity. We were in a small, in a very narrow mid-century office, a small office tower, which had the Bible League, La Liga Biblica, the Bible League on the ground floor, which is a small place where they were selling Bibles. And I don't know how they could go bankrupt in a Catholic country like Mexico, but all of a sudden they went away. And so all of a sudden there was this opportunity to rent a small space just underneath our office, really in direct contact with public space. And that's really what triggered us to start with LIGA. And so the first people we invited were Peso von Elrichhausen. I don't know if you have that image in your slides, Adriana. I don't think so. No? And so Peso von Elrichhausen did something very smart. They started off they made a miniature model of an architecture museum, and they showed that, and they made like all miniature models and miniature prints of architecture. And so by the moment we could present LIGA as a new space to the press, instead of showing the real space, we could just show images of that model. So all the people at the press were just thinking a new huge space with beautiful wooden floors. And is it in there somewhere? Yeah, exactly. So this is actually the image we sent to the press when we opened LIGA. And so People a lot of times don't really look at the images or the text very carefully. This was just published as No Space for Architecture Opens in Mexico City, but it was in the end just a 150 square foot space in our office building.
So, and I think we're pretty close to 8 o'clock. So one public service announcement, and that is for those of you looking for CEUs who are AIA members. If you've been here the whole time and we can track that, send us your name and AIA number to rsvp@archleague.org and we will process the CEUs for you. We were plotting tonight, and so stay tuned for the spring season where hopefully we'll be collaborating with LIGA on a couple programs. And thank you all for attending this, I think, very successful beta test, the first distanced first Friday on Thursday that we'll be holding throughout the year. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, and thanks, everybody.